Welcome to our episode, Our Lives with Water. Today we meet Lee de Mora, and I'm curious to hear his stories about his connection with art and science. Lee, welcome. And I have the first question. If you could please introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. My name is Dr. Lee de Mora, and I'm a marine ecosystem modeler at Plymouth Marine Laboratory in the UK. So, my background is I work on large-scale models of the Earth system. So these are computational simulations of the climate that include the ocean, the marine ecosystem, but also the atmosphere, the land surface, land plants, ice, and yeah, so land ice and sea ice. In my recent research has focused on trying to understand how marine ecosystems are likely to change in the future over the next century. So one recent piece of work that I did was looking at the Ascension Island Marine Protected Area, which was founded in the UK, and it's a region in the equatorial Atlantic that's roughly the size of Spain that is fully protected from fishing and from deep sea mining. And so what we did is we used an ensemble of climate models to try to understand the future of that marine ecosystem under different climate scenarios. Um, in a separate piece of work, I've also looked at the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, which is a system of currents in the Atlantic that has a huge impact on the climate, and especially the climate in Europe. And it's widely projected to weaken over the next century. And this may have some significant consequences for the climate and European weather and sea level.
Thanks for these insights, and I definitely would love to read later on more on these topics. But then, how does this goes with art in that respect? And if I remember correctly, you're part of Art and Science Committee.
So yeah, well, we founded the PML's Art and Science Committee a few years ago, and the idea is that it'll be a point of contact for scientists at Plymouth Marine Lab to engage in art and science art and science projects, pardon. And so just to take a step further back, Plymouth Marine Laboratory is actually an independent marine research institute, and we have charitable status. There's about 170 staff here and a cohort of roughly 15 students every year. And we do all sorts of multidisciplinary research, including climate change, marine biodiversity, and focus on cleaner seas. And our research has actually underpinned lots of international, national, and even regional marine policies, including things like the Paris Agreement. And we've worked with the UN on the Sustainable Development Goals. And we have project partners in more than 60 countries. In the Art and Science Committee, what we're here to do is to help artists and scientists engage in interesting and diverse projects. We've recently worked with the Arts University of Plymouth, their costumes course, and it produced the coccolithophore dress, which is it's a spectacular piece of fashion art where we showed the students at the university all sorts of different plankton, and they really linked up with this coccolithophore, which is a small type of like phytoplankton, so marine, like a tiny marine plant. And they really engaged with the shape of it and produced this spectacular dress, which was then shown all over the UK and including in local museums.
Thanks for sharing this case, and I will check further, and I would believe also the listeners on the creature and how it actually looks like. Made me very curious on this. But then, as you mentioned, the many researchers, more than 170, what is the current, engagement with arts, and what is maybe there are researchers themselves are artists.
Yes, so there are a lot of scientists at PML who are interested and excited about engaging with artists, from poetry to glass blowing to pottery or literature. Music is another topic. Actually, when we first founded the Art Science Committee, we did a survey of PML scientists. As a result of the survey, we found that more than 90% of the scientists at PML had a hobby or a side interest in generating their own art. And it's not just, it's a top to bottom. So from people who are, senior leadership that play musical instruments, or, people that are interested in photography, or scientists, or PhD students that do dance. And the range of interest is pretty much ubiquitous. It really made me think that science and art can be considered two sides of the same coin.
Well, I could not agree more on this. And I would also be curious to hear your own experience engaging with artists and if you have a particular memory of that and how maybe that has supported your work.
Yeah. So I have two things here that I'd like to mention. So a few years ago, the project that I was working on, the United Kingdom Earth System Model, we had a outreach stall at the Blue Dot Science and Music Festival at Jodrell Bank Observatory. And it was a fantastic festival with, I think, Kraftwerk with a band that were headlining. And it was really fantastic to see them. And we had this stall where we engaged with the public and talked about our science, but we didn't have any artistic products. So we didn't have any music at this music festival. So what we did was we went back and decided to use our model to generate music. And on the back of that, we started the Earth System Music Project, where we used our model data to sonify it as a series of pieces for piano. Um, Another really fantastic experience that we've had with artists was on the Cross Currents Science and Poetry project. So in this project, PML scientists were paired with local poets from Plymouth, Devon, and Cornwall. And I was personally paired with a poet called Ben Smith from Plymouth University. And I believe he's now the poet with Exeter University, and he works with the Met Office as well. So in at the time, our model research was centered around developing the model. It was about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe. And we were still in the early stages. And at that stage of model development, what usually happens is you'll make a small change to the computer code that runs the model, and then simulate a few years and see how it works. And sometimes some bug will appear in the code and it will break, and we'll just throw those years away and start again. So and this is in a pre-industrial state. So we don't even start the historical period at 1850 in these models. We're just running pre-industry. And the poet that I was working with, Ben, he really latched onto this idea. And it really goes to show the power of an outsider's perspective of an artist to see these small, mundane, everyday science activities and find the joy in them and find a story and find like putting emotional context into it. And the poem that Ben wrote is called Alternate Histories. And I won't read the whole thing, but I recommend that you do. And my favorite line from this poem is thinking about the glitches of the system and the failed worlds that never even made it to now.
Thanks for this. And yeah, I liked how you phrased it, that actually Ben showed another type of local reality which you are surrounded with in this beautiful poem. So I for sure will check out the full section of the poem. I thank you for the joining of this episode, and also I think we learned again these different cases where art and science just merge and flourish. So thank you for that. And yeah, today was our Lives with Water little short series episode with Lee de Mora. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.